Hello guys, so today we are cooking butternut squash and bacon risotto. As you'd imagine, butternut squash is important for this recipe. One small butternut squash, rinse it under the tap because you are going to be using this rind. Now most people don't know this, but when you cut up a butternut squash and then you roast it with its rind on, it gives it that added extra bit of yummy texture to the dish, and that is what we are going to do today. So when you rinse it, only rinse it in cold water and nothing else. 45 grams of butter. It is not an exact science, okay, but about 45 grams of butter. I am going to be using 1 clove of garlic, but you can use the life hack I love the most and buy yourself some squeezy garlic from a local shop and use as much garlic as you want in your recipe. I have 1 onion chopped up nice and fine for you guys.
Actually, the Parmesan cheese.
Oops. Oh well.
How much Parmesan cheese, Alex?
60 grams of Parmesan cheese. You can use goat's cheese as well, but it becomes a different recipe. It's just as tasty, but there you go. But funny bit of it, the onion. I hope this is the onion.
It is.
The onion. You will need, 1 chilli. However, you can always use chilli flakes or chilli paste that you can buy in the shops. Another life hack, which I think is fantastic. Bacon. Oddly enough, for bacon and butternut squash risotto, you need some bacon. Now today I'm only using tiny little cut up pieces of thick ordinary bacon. The recipe itself says streaky bacon, but I don't have that in at the moment, so we're just going to be using bacon for today. Sorry guys. You will need half a lemon, arborio rice. How much arborio rice did we say?
650 grams.
650 grams of arborio rice, 2 stock cubes. I've chosen vegetable stock cubes, and coriander. It's always nice to have some stalks and some leaves with your coriander or your parsley, whatever herb you're going to put into your risotto. So let's get cooking. So before I show you how to cut up the butternut squash, I just thought I did not mention that it's a red chilli that I've now cut up, ready for the recipe, and I used fresh coriander. Okay, I'm going to use fresh coriander, and it's all nice and chopped up, ready to go into the recipe. So in order to cut up your butternut squash, which is rather difficult, I'm going to be honest, you can just buy butternut squash from already cut up from Marks and Spencer's. Otherwise, I have not seen any already cut up butternut squash. So you cut off both ends. So I'm going to try and make sure I'm in the right place before I start cutting it. There we go. So there we go, I've got the bottom half off now. Rather proud of myself. I'm going to turn it over, I'm going to get the top half off. Now I tend to kind of just push it in so I've got kind of a good groove going before I start cutting it properly. Because then I've definitely got a good groove on. Now, this is the hard part. Because on the inside of your butternut squash, there are a hollow of seeds, and we're going to be getting rid of those seeds. So I'm going to try and cut this butternut squash exactly in half, which is rather difficult, I must say, but that doesn't mean I can't have a go with this rather large kitchen knife. There we go. So, I think that's about half. So if you can see all of that, those are the seeds. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to get my spoon and I'm going to try and drag all of the seeds down into this bowl here, ready for the bin. Obviously, you'd probably just drag it straight into the bin. But for me, right now, I am just going to drag it with a spoon straight into this bowl. And then I'm going to check with my hands to make sure that I have all of the seeds out. Oh, here we go. There we go. I did try and get it exact half. I don't think I managed it, to be honest, but it's better than nothing. I'm getting my hands all mucky, pulling it all out because I can. Now, before I start cutting it up into my chunks, I'm going to have a bit of side support just because it happens to be around. If it wasn't around, I'd have just carried on and hoped for the best, because that's all you can do, really, isn't it? Right, there we go. I think I've got most of it out. Right, so for now, I'm just going to start cutting up.
You use the small half.
The small.
Just to show how it's done.
Just to show you how it's done, because I have a feeling it's going to take quite a while before I get to cutting up the other side. So I've just got a bit of pip on my hand. I'm going to put it nice and flat onto my chopping board, and now I'm kind of measuring about, you know, like a mouthful type size in width.
About a centimetre.
About a centimetre. And then I'm just piling on the pressure onto my knife and cutting. Other people use a mandolin. I don't have one, so I'm just cutting it up with my knife because I can and I will. Right, there we go. Because you want it to kind of cook evenly, so you want them to be an even width, kind of even all round, you know. Oh, gosh. But I'm telling you, the texture is worth it. If you can get the butternut squash with the texture on, as in the rind on, then you're doing well. Don't feel too bad if you can't. It's not the end of the world at the end of the day.
It's great actually, Alex.
Thanks, Mum.
Why don't you just finish off showing them the final size? You don't have to cut it all up. So just take one of these slices and cut that one up.
And then I'll cut that one up into kind of mouth-sized chunks.
Great.
Talk about that kind of size. So if you could see that, I'm hoping you can see that. And if not, it's a mouth-sized chunk, the kind of chunk that you'd expect that you can put into your mouth and chew rather easily. All right then. So see you soon, guys. So here is my butternut squash on this tray here, all cut up into nice little chunks. Now before you put it in the oven, you must spray it with some oil. Well, pour some oil over it. I prefer to spray it because it's more controlled as a blind person. I use this sunflower oil and I sprayed it all over my butternut squash. Then you season it with some pepper all over, and then some salt, okay? Now I'm hoping that that pepper's actually coming out the milk.
It is.
Oh, brilliant. Right, have I got it all over?
Well, you've got plenty on.
Oh, that's good. Right, now let's go for... Oh, sure. Oh, blind guy problems. Let's go for salt now. I like the salt. You can hear that more.
That's plenty.
Definitely plenty. Now, I have had this oven on for at 160 degrees.
190.
Oh, sorry. 190 degrees. Oh, honestly, I should remember these things as long as I put it on. 190 degrees. And at 190 degrees, we are going to cook this for 20 to 30 minutes. Okay? So I shall start by opening my oven up. I've got my oven gloves on. Don't ever be silly and not put your oven gloves on. I'm going to put up the top shelf, sliding it in. Oh, sugar. Okay, your gloves on. There we go. And then I'm going to put that up like that. There we go. So, the next part of cooking is I have got out 2 pans, one small one and one really large one. I have put 1.1 litres of cold water into this pan. Now I'm going to take my vegetable stock cubes and I'm going to break them up and I'm going to put them into the water so that they can dissolve into the water. Okay? Over the heat. Trying to leave no wastage by rubbing my hands into the water, and then I'm just going to give this a stir. So whilst my butternut squash is cooking and this stock pot is dissolving, I have then got half my butter and put it into this big pan. I've then drizzled it with the tiniest bit of extra virgin olive oil, and that is when I am going to add my onion and my bacon together and let it cook together on a medium heat. Okay, here we go. There's my onion in with the nice melting butter, and there is my bacon. Come on, bacon, get in, and we'll separate all that yummy bacon out. I'm just gonna make sure that all of the bacon has come out the bowl. Put that bowl on top of that bowl, and I'm gonna separate it all out and make sure it gets a nice good stir in together, okay? Because all of those yummy flavours have to go in together. So whilst I have stirred this, I'm gonna teach you a little blind life hack. You know when you've got a pan on your hob and you can't find the little spoon or the spatula or whatever you put in order to stir whatever you've got in. Put it right next to the handle of the pan or on top of the handle of the pan, and then it becomes easier to locate and find. So I'm just going to give my stock cube a little bit of a stir here. Make sure that's still going. So I have been cooking this for 5 minutes. Those of you who can see, the bacon fat has rendered itself into the mixture, and the bacon has gone a nice kind of dark browny colour. The onions have turned translucent. For those who are blind, it smells absolutely gorgeous. And if you're really struggling with knowing when this has happened or if this has happened at all, Be My Eye service is a fabulous service for when you're starting to get used to the smell of when it has actually fully cooked in the way you want it to. Now we're going to add the chilies, preferably without losing the spoon in there, Al. And then I'm going to press in my garlic. Okay, so I've got my garlic here, and I'm now going to press that in. But hey, crush it all the way down and all the way in. Now, my stock cubes have dissolved, but because it has now boiled, I have turned it down so that it's not going to overboil all over the place. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to just cook it for another 1 minute. So we've cooked this for a further 1 minute. We are now going to add the arborio rice. Now, I'm going to just be honest, guys. I can't remember how much I told you, but I have this horrible feeling that I told you the wrong amount of arborio rice. This is 260 grams of arborio rice. Now, as I add this in, the rice should soak up all of the flavoursome fluids, and it will start to turn translucent, okay? I'm just mixing this all in together. Give it a good stir. This only needs about a minute. Now, you're probably wondering why we've got these stock cubes in this water and what it's for. Well, now this is where it becomes important, because what you're going to do is you're going to slowly ladle this into the pan. I'm going to start with about 2 ladles full, because if you can see, the arborio rice tends to get a tad dry. And what you're aiming to do with this is you're aiming for the arborio rice to soak up all of this yummy vegetable stock and become nice and juicy and plump with the flavoursome vegetable stock. So I'm now going to add 1 more and let that carry on going. And then it should soak up all of the water, and as it gets dry, whenever it gets dry, we're just going to add more water. Now the fact is that you will need, or should need, all of the water that is in this stock as you're cooking this. This is a lengthy process, but believe me, for good risotto rice, you really do need a certain amount of patience as you're doing this. And the patience will pay off in the flavour that you have at the end of it, okay? So as you can see, most of this stock has gone out of this pan over here. And this is now al dente. Now, al dente simply means that it is cooked through but has a bit of firmness to the middle of it. But just to check, make sure that you check. Now, this is really difficult for me as a blind person because I tend to try and get some out. I'll just have all of that. And I failed to only get a couple of strands, as you can see. And, you know, having a mouthful of not very well cooked risotto is not very pleasant. But just test it by tasting it, okay? And it's got to be al dente. So, now we are going to add our butternut squash, which is over there on the right-hand side. We're going to add 1/3 of our Parmesan cheese, 1/3 of our coriander, and leave the rest to decorate.
3/4 of Parmesan
3/4
and coriander, actually.
Okay. So this is all measured out, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there we go, we've got the butternut squash in, we've got the Parmesan cheese, we've got the coriander, and, if I forgot to tell you, we've got the rest of the butter in too. And now all I'm doing is I'm giving it a good mix round, a good stir to make sure it's all mixed in. And then I'm going to give a little bit of a squeeze of a lemon. Okay, of half a lemon. There we go. Right, where's my lemon? There it is. Right, so I'm going to try and do this with a flourish, guys. Ta-da! There we go. And then I'm gonna mix all of that in because that just gives it an added extra bit of flavour to our risotto. So there we are, 4 dishes of our risotto. Would you believe that originally this recipe was actually for 3 people? Definitely enough room for a meal for 4 people and dessert. So there we go, our coriander is on the top as decoration and it looks colourful and yummy. So here we go, let's take it in.